For a long time, car companies treated drivers like the problem, like we were outdated, stubborn, incapable of understanding the future. If you didn't like touchscreens, you were told to evolve. If you asked where the spare wheel went, you were handed a can of sealant and a customer support number. And if you wondered why your €50,000 car no longer had an oil dipstick, the answer was always the same: trust the software. For nearly a decade, manufacturers insisted they knew better than the people actually using these cars every day. Buttons were old-fashioned, mechanical parts were inefficient, simplicity was framed as ignorance, and if you pushed back, you were told the market had moved on without you. But here's the twist. In 2026, the market didn't move on. It snapped back. Sales dropped, owners complained, regulators stepped in, and suddenly, the same companies that laughed off criticism are quietly undoing years of bad decisions. Buttons are returning, spare wheels are reappearing, safety agencies are penalizing cars that hide basic functions behind glass menus. This didn't happen because executives had a change of heart. It happened because drivers refused to play along. Today, we're counting down 11 features manufacturers stripped away, and the ones they're now being forced to bring back. Some are already here, some are on the way, and a few are still missing in action. If you followed this channel, you know we've been calling out this nonsense for years. And if you're glad to see common sense creeping back into modern cars, hit subscribe because this fight isn't finished. Let's start with the biggest reversal of them all. Number 11, physical buttons for climate and audio. This isn't just a comeback, it's a mandate. From January 2026, Euro NCAP will penalize cars that lack physical controls for 5 critical functions: indicators, hazard lights, horn, wipers, and the emergency call system. Bury those in a touchscreen menu, and your safety score drops. And since around 90% of European buyers check NCAP ratings before buying, this isn't optional anymore. Here's the damning part. In 2022, Swedish magazine Vibelägare tested how long basic tasks took at 110 kilometers per hour. 4 simple actions: turn on heated seats, raise temperature by 2 degrees, activate defrost, and tune the radio. A 2005 Volvo V70 with physical buttons took 10 seconds, covering 306 meters. The MG Marvel R, dominated by a touchscreen, took 44.9 seconds, 1,372 meters driven while glancing between road and screen. The BMW iX took 30 seconds. The VW ID3 took 25.7. Cars costing €50,000 to €100,000 were humiliated by a 17-year-old Volvo. Volkswagen has already admitted defeat. Design boss Andreas Mint told Autocar, "We will never, ever make this mistake again." The ID Polo, revealed in late 2025, brings back real buttons. The refreshed Golf and Tiguan do too. Hyundai restored physical controls in the Tucson, Palisade, and Santa Cruz after focus groups were genuinely shocked that people hate touchscreen climate systems. Porsche is bringing buttons back. Even Ferrari admitted their touch-sensitive steering wheels weren't quite right. The touchscreen cult is retreating, and Euro NCAP just bolted the door behind them. Number 10, the spare wheel. For over a decade, manufacturers claimed run-flat tires and mobility kits were modern replacements. They saved weight, freed boot space, looked great on spec sheets. What they didn't mention: run flats cost €250 to €350 each, ride terribly, are often unavailable outside cities, and sealant kits permanently ruin tires, meaning you're calling recovery anyway. BMW was one of the worst offenders. Entire lineups shipped without spares. Cost-cutting disguised as innovation. Now look at the 2025 BMW X3. For the first time in years, a spare wheel is an option, about 200 pounds. Still cheeky, but its return says everything. The G45 X3 also ditches run flats on many trims. and owners report noticeably better ride quality. Why the change? Because customers screamed. Because one BMW owner documented a 1,400-mile nightmare after a run flat failed and no replacement existed locally. Because used buyers punished cars without spares. The fight isn't over, but BMW proved reversals happen when buyers refuse to comply. Number 9. Dedicated climate panels with real knobs. Climate controls were the canary in the coal mine. 3 knobs, temperature, fan speed, direction, 50 years of perfection. Then someone decided flat glass looked premium. Suddenly, fan speed required menu dives. Temperature changes demanded eye contact with a screen. Dual zone controls vanished into submenus. The backlash was instant and relentless. The 2026 Hyundai Palisade brings back physical climate knobs despite 2 massive screens. Tucson and Kona follow suit. Volkswagen's ID Polo uses illuminated piano key buttons. Golf and Tiguan regain switches. Mazda never surrendered. CX-30 and CX-5 still use proper knobs, and their sales success proves people care. Climate isn't infotainment, it's a core driving function. Software never belonged there. Number 8. The oil dipstick. This one is infuriating. A €2 component that worked flawlessly for a century replaced by a €250 sensor sitting in boiling oil. BMW ditched dipsticks in the mid-2000s. Mercedes and Audi followed. Problems began immediately. Owners reported wildly inconsistent readings. Sensors failed exactly as any engineer would predict. BMW even admits oil consumption of up to 1 quart every 800 to 900 miles is normal. Combine that with 15,000-mile service intervals and no dipstick, and owners are flying blind. Here's the quiet admission of guilt. BMW V8s in the 7 and 8 series still have dipsticks. They just hid them. They were there all along. 6-cylinder engines? Still sensor only. The fight continues, but the lie has been exposed. Number 7. Naturally aspirated engines. Turbocharging promised efficiency and power. In labs, it worked. In reality, lag, complexity, premium fuel, and expensive failures told another story. Turbos spin at over 100,000 RPM in 800-degree heat. When they fail, wallets cry. Mazda refused the trend. Their Skyactiv G engines deliver real-world efficiency and legendary reliability. Toyota kept naturally aspirated engines in hybrids. Honda still offers them in key models. These engines don't make headlines, but they don't make warranty claims either. The tide hasn't fully turned, but simplicity still has an audience. Number 6. The manual handbrake. Electronic parking brakes promise convenience. What they didn't mention? When they fail, you're stranded. A cable handbrake can be fixed in minutes. An electronic one needs a dealer. They also remove mechanical backup braking. If your main brakes fail, a lever still works. A button might not. Only about 8% of new European cars still offer manual handbrakes. Dacia refuses to give them up entirely. The Sandero's sales success proves people still value simplicity. Number 5. Hydraulic power steering. This is one of the quietest losses in modern cars, and also one of the most important. Electric power steering didn't take over because it was better. It took over because it was more efficient. Removing the hydraulic pump eliminates parasitic drag on the engine, improving fuel economy by a measurable margin. On paper, it makes perfect sense. On the road, it's a different story. Hydraulic steering works by physically transmitting forces from the front wheels back through pressurized fluid. When grip changes, when the tires load up mid-corner, when the road surface shifts, you feel it instantly and naturally through the wheel. There's no interpretation layer, No software deciding what feedback you're allowed to receive. Electric steering replaces that direct connection with sensors, algorithms, and an electric motor. In theory, it can replicate anything. In practice, it filters, smooths, and often sterilizes the feedback. The wheel gets lighter, more isolated, more artificial. You're still steering the car, but you're no longer connected to it. Manufacturers insisted drivers wouldn't notice. They were wrong. Porsche learned this the hard way. When early electric steering systems appeared in the 991 generation, 911, loyal customers immediately complained about numbness and reduced communication. Porsche didn't dismiss the criticism. They invested years refining motor placement, software tuning, and rack design to claw back the feedback that hydraulics delivered effortlessly. The current 911 steering is excellent, but it took enormous engineering effort just to approximate what hydraulic systems already did by default. Most manufacturers didn't bother going that far. Mazda deserves real credit here. While fully electric, Mazda's steering philosophy prioritizes feedback over maximum efficiency. The MX-5, in particular, proves that electric steering doesn't have to feel dead. It's light, communicative, and honest. Not because it mimics hydraulics perfectly, but because Mazda chose feel as a priority instead of an afterthought. And that's the real lesson. Hydraulic steering isn't coming back. Emissions targets and efficiency regulations have made sure of that. But the benchmark it set still matters. Every electric steering system is judged against it, whether manufacturers admit it or not. When a steering wheel feels vague or disconnected, drivers know immediately, even if they can't explain why. Steering feel isn't nostalgia, it's feedback, it's confidence, it's trust between the driver and the front tires. And while the industry may never return to hydraulic systems, the best manufacturers are finally remembering what they're supposed to replace. That awareness alone is a small victory, but an important one. Number 4. Features returning to standard equipment. This one isn't about technology coming back, it's about honesty coming back. For years, manufacturers played a pricing game. Strip base models to the bone, advertise an attractively low starting price, then charge extra for items that used to be standard. Air conditioning became optional. Reversing cameras sat behind trim upgrades. Even things like floor mats, spare wheels, and basic driver assistance features were quietly moved onto the options list. The goal wasn't better cars, it was better marketing. Regulation is now forcing a reversal. In the EU, reversing cameras are mandatory for new type approvals. Automatic emergency braking is required. Speed limiters are compulsory. These features can no longer be hidden behind option packs or used to inflate profit margins. They must be included, whether manufacturers like it or not. But regulation alone isn't the real pressure, competition is. Value brands like Dacia and MG exposed how artificial the options model had become. When a €15,000 car includes air conditioning, a touchscreen, a reversing camera, and safety tech as standard, while a €30,000 car charges extra for the same basics, the illusion collapses. Customers notice, reviews notice, resale values notice. That pressure is forcing mainstream brands to respond. Standard equipment levels are slowly improving. Features that were once premium upgrades are quietly returning to base trims. Not out of generosity, but because buyers have stopped accepting the upsell. This shift matters because it changes trust. A car's starting price should reflect what you actually get, not what's missing. And while the options list hasn't disappeared, the era of charging extra for essentials is finally being challenged. It's not a full victory, but it's a clear step away from nickel and diming and toward giving buyers what should have been there all along. Number 3. Front fog lights. Modern LED headlights are amazing, bright, adaptive, and precise. But there's one scenario where they fall short: real, thick fog. That's where dedicated front fog lights shine, literally. Positioned low on the bumper, they cut under the fog, illuminating the road surface directly in front of you without reflecting back into your eyes. It's simple, effective, and has worked for decades. For years, many manufacturers removed fog lights entirely. Why? Styling and cost. A cleaner bumper looked more modern, and accountants loved the tiny savings. Some tried to replace them with software tricks in adaptive LED matrices, but these rarely match the effectiveness of a dedicated lamp. In heavy fog, rain, or snow, you notice the difference immediately. The good news? Some brands are quietly bringing them back, either as standard or optional equipment. Others integrate fog functionality into headlights, but the result is often compromised. If you live in areas with actual weather, Scotland, the Alps, Scandinavia, or even certain coastal regions, fog lights are still worth insisting on. Check the options carefully before buying, because what was once a simple standard feature may now cost hundreds of euros as an extra. Fog lights may seem minor, but they're a perfect example of how manufacturers sacrificed practical safety features for style, and how customer pushback is finally forcing a reversal. Number 2. Manual gearboxes. The manual isn't returning to the mainstream, but it's not dead. Porsche, Mazda, Toyota, and BMW enthusiasts fought to keep it alive. Manuals still exist, but only if buyers keep choosing them. Number 1. The freedom to understand and maintain your own car. This is the real victory. Right to repair laws, longer parts, availability, physical controls, cars that don't require subscriptions or dealer permission to exist. These features aren't returning because manufacturers had epiphanies. They're returning because the alternatives failed. So keep demanding better. Keep buying cars that respect you. Keep ignoring the ones that don't. The rebellion is working, but it's not finished yet. Bottom line, manufacturers didn't change out of kindness. They changed because drivers pushed back, touchscreens failed, cost-cutting got exposed, and buyers stopped playing along. But this isn't the end. Manual handbrakes, dipsticks, and manual gearboxes are still on life support. The pressure has to stay on. If you care about real buttons, fair pricing, and cars designed for drivers, not accountants, drop a comment and tell us which feature you want back the most. Which reversal surprised you? Like the video, subscribe to CarWave, and share it with anyone shopping for a car in 2026. We'll keep calling this out, tracking every rollback, and holding manufacturers accountable. Because this isn't nostalgia, it's common sense. Thanks for watching.